All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Speak Up Sal. Today we're here with Chris Lewis again. Thanks for being here. And we're going to be talking a little bit more about fatherhood, the journey of fatherhood, the things we learned, the things we'd like to share with you, and just how positive of an experience it's been overall. So you're the father of two awesome kids, like the best kids ever. So you're doing a great job.
Thanks.
So how old were you when you had your first kid?
31, 32.
Awesome. And you feel like that was enough time to help you prepare for being a father?
Yeah. I feel like I wouldn't have. If I had a child earlier, it would have changed my growth patterns sooner. But I'm glad. I'm glad my children were around in my mid-20s. So yeah, I think my wife and I were intentional with our stages of development, and it was nice to have time to for us to kind of cultivate our relationship before diving in. But I think it had it happen sooner, like you're jumping into it. It makes you grow up quicker, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're never ready until it happens.
Right.
Once it happens, that's when you kick it in high gear and it's time to, get going.
Yeah, and you can do all the reading you want, but like every child's different, and a lot of it's like trial and error and having the tools to navigate that.
Yeah, absolutely. My parents were also pretty young when they had me, so get right into it made them really grow up. My dad talks about it all the time, so I had like a really good role model for doing what I'm doing right now. So
yeah, and you have your parents involved still.
Absolutely. Parents, grandparents, both sides. So that's having a tight-knit family and a good support group is a really big thing to raise kids and stuff. So I know you got a good support group as well, so that's awesome. Got a great family and everything. So that's a huge part of it, is just being close with your family, extended family and stuff, and just kind of all relating on the fact that you're all parents and you're all doing the best you can, and putting in the work. That's all I had right there. That was all I had.
So one thing that I've been working with is sometimes in the moment, like it kind of chaos. Like I remember one lady being like, before I had kids, she's like, "Don't worry about keeping a house clean. Like, play with your kids, because like they basically just make messes everywhere." So if you're one of those people that likes to like a clean environment or likes everything orderly, like you got to
give up.
I'm gonna have to. Because otherwise, you're like, don't do that, don't go that, and clean up that. Like,
pick this up.
What are you doing? Right? So like you basically just got to like meet them where they are.
Yeah.
So like, to keep zooming back or pulling back, to have that perspective of like in 20 years, like, what I wouldn't give to do bedtime with my son again, what I wouldn't give to have so sometimes like it's so hard in the moment, you're just like, I don't have capacity, like stop whining, like so just to take that breath or to breathe, trying to get rid of the word take, to breathe, and shift that perspective to say like, these are the best times.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it can be, really challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the thing for me that I want to try and realize as best as I can is that I was a kid once too. I did all these things too, and that's what got me here. So, giving them that breath and some space to, make that mess, or just play with your toys. The book I've been reading, the dad book. So I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. They said the most valuable thing you can give your kid is time. No salary or no job you have is ever really going to help them if it sacrifices the time you could have with them. So that's kind of where I want to go.
And I would even add like, the time, like letting that time, like really being present, really being intimate. So like, I feel like the modeling or like what we're expressing, because I see so many parents like they're cursing up a storm and their kids say something and they're like, don't say that, and I'm like, how could you do that? So but like, sometimes, I don't know, like say my son will be doing something that sets me off, or he's being rude or whiny or whatever, and like if I ever respond in this angry or aggressive or like frustrated way, like I'm not connected. I'm acting or reacting through emotions. And basically what I'm imparting to him is that emotion, right? So he ends up mostly getting that projected emotion or that emotional response, and that's what he's processing.
Yeah.
Where if I can step back, control my or calm my own nervous system and really get into this connected place and then look at him and talk, and especially if I can get his eyes and be like, hey, like even especially like if I'm like, hey, right, like he won't, but like if you can come at him in that like very present, calm, connected and be like, hey, look at me, right? Like when you can make that connection with them before you speak, then it gets through. Because if you're connected, then they're connected. So like I think the biggest thing is basically like they are resting in our field, and whether that field is love or joy or anger or hatred or frustration, like that's what we're imparting more than like we can be like, hey, I want to give them this lesson or that lesson, but like really those are just our belief systems, which are all going to be skewed or biased or limited. So like I think
based on what you've experienced,
how
that was presented to you.
So I think trying to give them less of our biases and worldviews and just more of our unconditional love. Is like,
the two meditations that I've been like going back to, I bookmarked them. I talked about one of them was you have to lead by example. That's one of the best ways to do it. You know, you can't be cussing in front of your kids and then expect them not to do it. Like, I mean, I did it all the time, you know? So that's one. And then what you said is to have less opinions. It's like really important to get along with your kids, and showing them like your opinions and your frustrations isn't really going to help. So that's like the 2 points that I think I want to really try and break that habit, do the generational healing and make sure I don't do that to my kid and stuff. So yeah, those are very important things to focus on.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that came out of the Platonic schools. They would say like your opinions are not that important. You're either studied and you're a master at something, or you're not. And if you're not a master at something, then you really don't know what you're talking about. You're just spouting off something you heard somewhere.
Just telling people how you feel.
Yeah. So like if you want to train in a discipline, right? If you want to like become a master at something, then own that. But like, you know, so many people watch a baseball game or watch a little politics, and or like, you know, they all of a sudden think they have the right answer for the economy. It's like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, you don't play baseball. You're like, you're not an economist. Like, so it's just that, like, are you a master at this? If not, shut your mouth.
Yeah, bite your tongue. You know, definitely. Yeah, I think that I've seen it personally firsthand. Something you do really well is help bring students and bring your kids back down to like a neutral balance of emotions and that neutral energy in their field. So the way you talk to some of the students we have, if they're not, you know, doing too well or not behaving well, I can see them getting calmer, as opposed to the alternative where like a parent or another coach would just yell at them, then they keep acting that way, you know? So, you know, props to you for being able to do that. So yeah, of course.
So there's this idea of co-regulation, right? So as we're interacting, right, whoever we're interacting with is actually able to regulate their nervous system through our nervous system. So like basically I think the best thing parents can do is to work on their own shit to ground their nervous systems. So like basically the stuff, you know, we talked about, Sal, and the last time I was here with Sal, we talked about generational healing and generational trauma. So you know, anything that we haven't healed ourselves, we're basically passing on to our kids. And as we heal them, you know, that heals them through the field, that heals them through time, through space. So, you know, we give that gift to our children, you know, as we do the work for them. So, you know, getting back to that, it's not selfish to focus on you.
Yeah.
And I think, sorry, go ahead.
No, there's definitely a huge stigma on that. You know, if you act for yourself and do what's best for you, people are going to like talk poorly about you behind your back or make you feel bad for doing it. When in reality, like it's the best thing you can do for your own relationship with your, you know, significant other, your family, or your kids. Like if you keep yourself doing well, then, you know, those things will kind of fall into place.
Yeah.
As opposed to like tell other people what to do, like share your opinions and what they should do. So.
And my mom was like an amazing mom. She ran a preschool, and if she did anything, or if she could have done anything different, I think she should have, I think she could have, I don't want to should her. I think she could have kept more of her own self, more of her own time, more of her own loves and pursuits. So like sometimes I hear people say when you have kids, like that's your life, you're dedicated to your kids. And there is this like beautiful, even dependent, relationship. Like the kids, especially as young kids, are so dependent on you. But to give up all of your own pursuits, to give up your creative endeavors, to give up your hopes, to give up your life, that's also modeling something to them. Yeah. So like my wife and I are in the middle of, chasing down our dreams, like around homesteading and unlearning and living off the land and teaching off the land. And, we're trying to carve out a couple hours a day or a couple hours here and there to build that community, that curriculum, that garden, that teaching, that relationship to the plants and the medicine. So like to show our kids that like we're building, we're creating, like I think is also important to model that.
Yeah, and that's going to do so much more for your kids than the, hey, pick up that damn toy, or calm down, you're stressing me out, stuff like that.
Yeah, sometimes we think like we're bad parents if we don't spend every waking moment, but like if I go do something for myself, I feel like I come back and I'm a better dad, I'm more present, I have more capacity and more patience and more so sometimes I think the best thing for the mom is to get a babysitter and go have a spa day and come back and be the best mom that she can be.
Yeah, we noticed that, me and Saria, some space is super important, right? Especially when you're cooped up in a tiny little apartment, 31 weeks pregnant. Sometimes I got to go take a walk, and that's a good thing. And same for her. She'll go walk the dog, I go walk the dog, and we come back and we're better. When we had that time to breathe, just let it all dissipate.
So also, like, I see when my kids are spinning out a little bit, like, so I've heard basically the theory from some of the psychologists and therapists that I like about ADD and ADHD is basically this idea that when your needs aren't met as a child, to process that or to feel that sometimes is too much and too overwhelming. Maybe you were neglected, and this isn't like your parents left for 3 days, but this is like you were crying and they weren't able to soothe and calm, right? A lot of times the child will end up distracting itself, himself, herself. So basically ADD or ADHD is a trauma response from not actually getting what you needed as a child. Mm-hmm. Lost my train. So basically this ability to soothe, right, comes from like it's entrained through us. So like when your child is upset, to rock them, to soothe them, to calm, right? You're trying to train their nervous system, and especially increasing their vagal tone. So like that vagal tone comes from the vagus nerve, but it's basically your nervous system's ability to down-regulate or regulate itself. So, and for most people, I mean, on some level, you inherit that from your mother, but we're teaching them. So like, I know some people say, oh, like the kids got to learn to self-regulate. But we teach them. They train how to do that through us. So like to grab your kid, like when my son's crying, like I hold him tight and I literally hum into him so that vibration moves through him, or like or you rock them like a baby.
I think you do like breathing exercise with them as well. Just try and like breathe through it and
it's hard when they're hyperventilating. They're like, I can't. Sometimes I actually think like if you can get them to hold their breath for a little bit and rebuild that carbon cycle, because when you're hyperventilating, there's a surplus of oxygen, but it doesn't actually have anything to attach to.
Yeah, you're exhausting all the way. Yeah.
So you actually need to build the carbon back in so the oxygen has something to attach to.
It's really interesting. Yeah, I've noticed like even like with the kids we teach, if I step away, I go to the bathroom, take like 3 deep breaths, I come back a whole new person. I just feel so much better. And then I don't react, and then they react. I can just be like, hey,
I know.
Let's not do this. Let's get back.
I know where I started with. When you heard like, we went to walk the dog or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
When my kids are freaking out, just going outside, just stepping outside with them, like, is a whole new ball game. So like just the ability for nature and the earth, and to step on the earth without rubber-soled shoes, to ground, it's like instant grounding. Inflammation goes away. You pull in those electrons from the earth, like reduction of free radical. Like, so the healing benefits of just going outside when you feel a little extra is huge.
Yeah. Yeah, being outside helped me today. Honestly, I was pretty tired this morning. So going outside in the afternoon, the sun, the light, the fresh air actually does really help.
One tool I love for new parents is getting their natal chart done. So the natal chart can be a blueprint, a personality profile. So, you get to see where's their sun, how do they present to the world, what's the moon, how do they process their emotions, what's the ascendant, how do people view them. So it's been super helpful. Like, one thing in my son's chart was like he had his Neptune as his ascended planet right on the top of the chart. So it's talking about him being like hypersensitive to any sorts of poisons or chemicals or medicines. So like he's just, his nervous system is like just hypersensitive even to sounds. So like we're just sensitive to that. So one of the things we try homeopathy, because it's such a good tool for sensitives. In terms of like emotions, like my wife has a moon in Scorpio, so it's watery, it's deep, like she wells up, and like you can feel the depth of it. Where my moon's in Taurus, it's earthy, it's grounded, it's tied into my analytical intelligence. So I will feel things deeply, but it's very practical. Like I'm very
breaking it down, you're analyzing it.
Yeah. I'm like, I feel that, I'm interested in that, I'm curious about that, but I'm not like, like I'm not like lost in it.
Yeah.
But like,
good, lucky you.
But with that Scorpio moon, like when she looks at you with loving eyes, you feel like the goddess, the divine mother is looking at. So there is this incredible beauty in that like deep scorpionic moon. So it's just a plug for getting your natal chart.
That really helped me when you got that done for me as well. That was a really good time in my life. And the one thing that sticks with me, I think about it every day, is that before Chris Larden, before I even told him I was having a kid, he was like, come fall, you're going to have the most energy you've had in a long time. You're going to feel like great, like renewed, reborn. And I'm like, well, wait until you hear this.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for a natal chart done, Chris Largent out of Delaware, he does awesome natal charts. You can find him online. I think he's called the Seventh Academy. But I go back to readings he did 4 or 5 years ago, and it was like, in 2 years, you're going to start to do like this really creative project. You're going to be built. And I look back and, I'm 3 years into building this like wellness consciousness curriculum. And like, I'm constantly blown away by the timing that, that it shows. So basically a lot of people have the wrong understanding of astrology, that they think in this naive causality that like planets cause things to happen. That's not actually what's going on. Just like mathematics or any symbol system, it's actually symbol systems.
You're okay. Okay. We're back after a brief pause, a little break, and a move into a different room. So,
Scene change.
Yes, scene change, exactly. Something that I hear a lot is being a parent is the most rewarding, but the most difficult thing in the world. So what's your take on that? Is it?
Yeah, that's totally true.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked before, like sometimes you come home from a day of work, you feel like you just want, I think the biggest thing that shifts that we're not ready for is the like amount of time you had to yourself.
Yeah.
That like is basically like, especially at a young age, they're just so needy, right? And not like because they're doing anything wrong. I guess they're
dependent on
they're dependent on you. So like, where before like you had nights to there was just so much time that like you could get like, so that time, that space is just so diminished. Like it's like a complete shift. So that's the challenging part, that like, it's a forever thing.
Yeah.
Um,
And we've already noticed with that, like just being pregnant, that it's baby's time now. It's not our time. We don't do the things that we used to do in our personal lives. We
but
don't.
to try to make time for,
Yeah. To make like a little bit of time to ourselves so that we can be better for baby girl,
but then like
for each other.
the first time your child says I love you, or like there are just like these little moments that like just
First steps.
yeah, and melt your heart. If I see I don't know, like we were walking around the pond the other day, and my 1-year-old or 1.5-year-old came up behind my 5-year-old, and like me and like pat him on the back and goes, because like when I'm picking her up, and I'll say, can I tell you a secret? And I'll whisper in her ear, I love you. Like I do that pretty regularly. So to then see her do that to her big brother, like, yeah.
That's awesome, man. That's beautiful. And that's the best part about it, seeing those little moments. A lot of people get caught up in the I don't have time to do this, I don't have time to take care of myself. But then you see those moments like that. It makes it all.
Yeah, and sometimes you think they're not listening, and then they don't listen to me, they don't hear, and then you see them do something, you're like, whoa, they were listening.
Yeah.
I think one thing that stuck out to me is like, I think with the women, like they're carrying that baby through inception. It's like they're feeding off them. It's like literally grown from them. Like
Yeah.
it is a part of them for those 9 months. So it comes out, and like they're already tied to it in this like very bonded, miraculous way.
Yeah.
So I kind of was thinking when the baby would come out, there would be this like, and don't get me wrong, like we did a home birth, it was beautiful, like cut the cord, like I was holding them, like it was connected, but like the relationship really had to be developed, it had to be grown, it had to, through experience, through time, especially as the person, like, in that fourth trimester where the baby's like, at least the way my wife mothers, like the baby's constantly on my wife nursing, and that was a beautiful thing for them to be held and loved.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like I had to a little bit of me had to wait for that fourth trimester to end until I could get in there a little bit, and like until they were a little bit less dependent on mom.
Yeah.
For me to start to cultivate more of, and especially when our second child came in, and she had to, my wife was so much there for that child, then me and my son started, he needed me more because, he lost in a little bit way, like he lost his identity of, I'm mom's little guy.
Yeah. I know how that feels. I know how that feels.
So, yeah, and it's tough. Like even just like, missing my wife, like my wife and I were so tight, and that first year, especially since they're co-sleeping, I was in bed with them, but like she's propped up with pillows. Like I feel like I'm looking up at this island with her and the little baby, and I'm like down here in this like.
You're really hitting home now. We already have that. Pillows and the dog. I get like a little sliver of the, I want the catch. It's nice.
So, so I think we're gonna create some space between 2 and 3 just to like, reestablish some of our own habits and own patterns. And, and I'm still, I think, parenthood has only made me tighter with my wife, but, we miss each other on some level. So trying to find time for date night, trying to find time for, even just conversations one-on-one. So sometimes we'll drive back from the beach and the kids will be sleeping. We'll get to talk to each other and be like, this is nice. We should do this more. So yeah, not like, I think it's really important. Like we talked about that modeling, right? So we're modeling what a healthy relationship looks like between lovers, between partners. So like to keep that passionate and romantic. And I think it's healthy. Like I wish I saw my parents show, and they have a healthy relationship. They're still married, but I wish I saw them show more affection. Like, and if I start like kissing my wife or like making out a little bit, my son, like she comes in the middle, he's like, hey, you guys, Like he like totally wants to marry his mom, my wife still, and I'm like, dude, you are a product of this love. You should be happy that we love each other. But he's still like, as soon as he sees it,
love.
like we'll put on music and start dancing, and if we dirty dance a little bit, he's like, hey, none of that, none of that. He's like the principal, the elementary school principal. And like,
That's so funny. I was like that not that long ago. You know, I was a kid like 15, 16 years ago. I was totally like that. So it's really good to hear like that. Just to remind myself of what it's like to be that age again, and to kind of feel what they feel again, and understand that it's normal, and to get them to where they need to be as an adult. So yeah, that's awesome. I'm going to take that with me, especially that 4th trimester thing. That's going to be really helpful. So I really appreciate that.
Cool.
Yeah, man. Well, do you want to call it for the day? You got your meeting? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sweet. Hey, thank you, man. Really appreciate it. As always, thank you guys for tuning in. And until next time, Speak Up Sal. We'll be back.
Go off.
See you guys.
Good luck to all those fathers out.
Oh, yeah. Almost there. Almost in hundreds. Yes, and mothers.